Today, we're continuing our deep dive into all things Taylor Swift, focusing on her unique use of symbolism, especially color, to figure out what might have happened between Taylor Swift and Matty Healy from 2014 to 2024. We've already covered albums like Reputation, Folklore, and Evermore, and now it's time to explore Midnights and TTPD. But to truly appreciate what's going on in Midnights, we first need to talk about why Lavender Haze became the opening track, and how it might serve as the thesis statement for the entire album, even if it didn't feel that way to many fans at first. So, if you're new to the concept of a title track, in Taylor's world, the opening number is everything. It's that all-important introduction that clues us in on the central themes, feelings, and ideas that weave through the rest of the songs. When Midnights was announced, the big question for a lot of us was, why Lavender Haze? Sure, it's a catchy phrase referencing a 1950s term about being deeply in love or being stuck in that honeymoon phase. Taylor even explained this in one of her Midnights Mayhem episodes.
It's a common phrase used in the 50s where they would just describe being in love. Like, if you were in the lavender haze, then that meant that you were in that all-encompassing love glow, and I thought that was really beautiful.
But, and here's where it gets really interesting, when you actually sit down and analyze the lyrics and visuals, especially the music video, the vibe feels less like a straightforward love song and more like, well, something else. You might remember from my previous videos how perfectly Folklore's opening track, The One, sets the tone for that entire record. So you might also wonder if Lavender Haze does the same for Midnights. At first, it seemed odd because it didn't scream 13 sleepless nights across Taylor's life quite as directly. But as Swifties, our job is to be delightfully delusional, dissect clues, and go down rabbit holes. So today, I'm going to share my personal theory on how Lavender Haze is actually the perfect opener for Midnights once you read between the lines and colors. When Taylor first introduced Lavender Haze, she described it as referencing this 1950s phrase about being in a state of overwhelming love. Naturally, we all assumed it was a dreamy, romantic track about her relationship with Joe Alwyn. But if you look closely at the music video and the lyrics, you might sense a different undercurrent. There's a hint of a neglected woman trying to escape into a dreamland because she doesn't know how else to keep herself emotionally afloat. It says her partner might not be doing enough to maintain that deep emotional connection. Yes, on the surface, it's about love, but Taylor is the queen of double meanings. She loves to assign multiple connotations to a single term, and Lavender Haze might just be another instance of that. With Taylor, if you blink, you miss it, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. To understand this double meaning, let's talk about color symbolism, something Taylor uses brilliantly across her discography. For instance, we know that she tends to associate blue with Joe Alwyn. Sometimes it's a sad or melancholy blue, and sometimes it's a clear, open sky kind of blue. But Joe is almost always represented by that color. Plus, we know Joe's favorite color is also blue, which just makes it extra cute.
Blue.
Meanwhile, red in Taylor's universe has often been tied to explosive emotion, passion, heartbreak, deep love, or even references to Matty Healy. There's been speculation that certain songs might subtly reference him, especially when we see that Midnights follows albums like Folklore and Evermore, which were partially shaped by lingering thoughts, regrets, or even sparks from the past. Now, lavender is made by mixing red, blue, and white. Let that sink in.
Let that sink in.
Okay, yeah.
It's not just an aesthetic blend. It's a potential mixing of the emotional colors Taylor uses to represent significant people in her life. We have blue for Joe, red, perhaps Matty Healy, and then the mysterious white, which we'll get to when we talk about TTPD. So visually, lavender is like blue with a reddish tint. In the public eye, she might be blue or with Joe, still praising him and celebrating him in her songs. But in those secret sleepless nights, hello Midnights, those red-tinted thoughts of Matty could be creeping in. And this is subtly hinted at throughout the Lavender Haze music video. So, at the start, Taylor is wearing blue nail polish and a comfy blue shirt, indicating she's publicly blue, that is, loyal to Joe and their long-term relationship. But as the video progresses, we see that shade of lavender growing stronger. It's as though she's leaning into this dreamland, her inner world, where red mixes in with the blue, hinting that those old feelings or memories connected to Matty might still be lingering. It's a delicate balance. The lavender is mostly blue to the world representing the relationship with Joe, but laced with those red undertones. It's that double life of being physically with one person, yet emotionally or mentally wandering somewhere else in the middle of the night. Now, let's bring in another layer. Halsey's iconic track, Colors. Halsey wrote this after her breakup with Matty Healy back in 2015 or 2016. Halsey's hue, which is lilac, leaned more heavily toward red, suggesting she had changed herself to fit his world, while he only ever saw a mismatched color. Comparing this to Taylor's journey. Her lavender isn't as red-heavy as Halsey's lilac. For Taylor, the base is still that calm, steady blue or Joe, with flecks of red representing Matty creeping in. It's nowhere near the bright, all-consuming scarlet from her past experiences, but the tension is there nonetheless. Finally, let's talk about white, the color scheme for TTPD. If you imagine Taylor blending red and blue to create lavender during midnights, then by the time TTPD rolls around, perhaps both the red and blue have faded away, leaving her colorless, or white. White can also symbolize a fresh start, a blank canvas, or even feeling washed out after a storm of emotions. Tracks like The Prophecy, The Manuscript, I Look in People's Windows, How Did It End, and The Albatross. TTPD was deeply self-reflective. It's potentially one of Taylor's most introspective records, maybe since Speak Now or Red. This could mark a new chapter for her, free from the overshadowing presence of either an intense red or a settled blue. In essence, maybe TTPD is the aftermath, where all the colors have drained out, and she's left to rediscover who she is without those external influences. Bringing it all together, Lavender Haze sets the stage for Midnights by dropping us into Taylor's in-between space, or the tension between her public reality and her private thoughts. She's still blue, publicly committed, but she's also dipping her toe back into a color that resonates with her past experiences, which is red. The whole album explores the restless nights, regrets, memories, and fantasies swirling around in her head in the middle of the night, an environment where those two colors mix and swirl, or the Lavender Haze. If The One was the perfect opener for folklore, because it was a wistful reflection of what could have been, Lavender Haze is the perfect opener for Midnights, because it's a dreamy invitation into a kaleidoscope of emotions. It acknowledges her present, hints at her past, and foreshadows her potential future. And sure, on the surface, it might look like a love song about Joe Alwyn, but we know there's more going on here than meets the eye. So that's my theory on why Lavender Haze isn't just a breezy love song, and why it's a surprisingly spot-on opening track. It's all about color symbolism and the blending of these various emotional states and relationships. Taylor's always been a mastermind at layering her music with hidden meanings, and if you track her color references carefully enough, you can start to see these patterns emerge. Is it all just one big coincidence? Possibly, but let's be real. We're Swifties, and part of the fun is dissecting every clue, lyric, or color choice to discover hidden stories. Sometimes it's deliberate, sometimes it might just be us spinning theories, but either way, we can't deny how fascinating it is to connect these dots. So what do you think? Is Lavender Haze more than just a love song? Did Taylor put it first to hint at the shift in her emotional palette? And was TTPD a blank white canvas where she pours her heart out, free from the lingering reds and blues? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, whether you're completely on board or you think I've gone off the deep end. That's the beauty of being a Swiftie. We can all share these crackpot theories, debate, and keep each other up until midnight, pun intended. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. I have plenty more theories cooking about Midnights, TTPD, and all the Easter eggs Taylor might have hidden for us to find. So, stay tuned for more.